Hello and welcome back to the Villa View for a video where it's both Dan and I in one for the first time, what feels like forever. We're going to be basically discussing what we make of the transfer window as a whole, so discussing the ins and the outs. So Dan, it's been a window that's included 7 players coming in and, if we're being technical, 12 players leaving the club. Overall, first of all, how have you felt about the window?
I think obviously we had a lot to get rid of. I think probably we haven't got rid of as many as we wanted to shift. So there's still some players there who I'd imagine won't play much football. I think the squad is still very bloated. But I do think it's getting harder and harder to move players on. So I think those behind the scenes deserve a lot of credit for getting rid of 12. A lot that are maybe seen as deadwood. I think we've got some good fees for some as well. So I think we should be commended for that. I think we've been busy with the incomings than I thought we would be. I think that's my one slight criticism, would be that we said we weren't going to do that much business incoming wise because we sacrificed the season in January last year, but actually 7's probably more than I thought would end up coming in.
Yeah, for me I agree with that. I didn't expect that many. It's always been about trimming this summer and trimming the squad. For me, it's not been trimmed enough, as we've touched on. Certain players like Ross McCormack, for example, haven't left, but then I think we've done the right thing in loaning certain players. I'm a bit disappointed we haven't got permanent moves for them, but I'd rather them be out of the way sort of thing than them be cluttering the squad up even more.
In a way, I'm kind of glad that we haven't caved in and got rid of people like Elphick and McCormack, who I know that we had offers for, because it would have meant us having to cave in for a much lower fee than we wanted to, and has kind of been taken for a ride by a team that's in the same league as us. So I'm quite glad in some respects that we've held on to them, although obviously it's a pain that McCormack especially probably isn't going to play. But I say Elphick's probably going to come back into the squad now because we have only got 3 genuine centre-backs, not including him. So I do think there is a space for Elphick, as much as he probably wanted to go. I think he showed good professionalism in the League Cup game, so he's certainly one I would involve. The Gardner one, I know you've said that we've let him go on loan, but it is with a view to a permanent, and I just think at the moment we wouldn't have got a great fee for him. But in other loan spells, he's shown himself to be a decent player at Championship level. So if he proves that Barnsley is a good Championship player, as he may well do, then we'll get a better fee in 12 months' time than we would have got this year.
Just running through the list very quickly. Ricardo Calder, obviously, had got released. Kevin Tone has also left as well on loan to Stevenage. Jarell Sellers has left this summer, obviously, as well. Some of the youngsters, Mahita Sarkic has left. But then going more to the first team ones, Jordan Marvey's obviously left. That's going to be a permanent next summer. You got the likes of Ali Sissoko finally going, Leandro Bacuna going, quite welcomed by many, I'd say, including myself. Jordan Veretout, we sort of expected that to happen. The website I'm using actually got Carlos Sanchez leaving to Fiorentina happening this summer rather than January, which I think many fans sort of forgot about as well, that he was leaving as well. So really, we've got rid of some huge earners there, and there's still a few kicking around, but some big earners are off the books.
I think in 12 months' time we'll be in a much healthier position, because I think there'll be 3 players that are on relatively high wages at the moment that probably won't be there. Maybe only 2. Maybe I'm overreading things with the 3. But I think, as I said, it's harder to sell players now than perhaps it has been previously, especially when you know that we didn't want them or that we couldn't use them, that the players didn't want to be there. It's obvious that Veretout and Sanchez didn't want to be at Aston Villa, so to get any kind of fee for them is good business in my eyes. Yeah,
there was an article the other day that I know you touched on in the podcast, that we've cleared financial fair play. I mean, it's not a news story in itself, but the fact we've made a clean profit this summer is good to see, that we've made better sort of positioning in terms of the sales. We collected nearly £10 million for Carlos Sanchez and Jordan Veretout, which I think is a miracle, to be honest. And then loan fees, likes of Jordan Harvey, a few million in loan fees. Good business overall. And then going to switch it to the incomings. We've sort of got players at a good price in terms of Glenn Whelan, got him really cheap. Al Mohammadi, good price. The loan deals for Onumar and Snodgrass, admirable in terms of the fees that we've probably paid there. 2 million for Snodgrass on loan. It's good business sense that we've made here.
I mean, I'd say there was no genuine surprises with the outgoings. There's no one there on that list that you'd think, oh, I'm surprised we decided to get rid of them. There was no surprises. I think what's happened with the incomings, perhaps maybe we didn't think that we would do as much business. Perhaps we thought we'd keep it at 4 or 5, but obviously Snodgrass has come available pretty late in the window, and obviously Bruce has got a relationship with him. So I think at the start of the window, maybe we thought there was no chance of getting him. Maybe we got rebuffed by West Ham at the start of the window, but then obviously when he has become available and we knew we had a chance of getting him, the board wanted to back the manager and they wanted to get a player who's very effective at this level. I think it may be the same with Onuma. Perhaps they didn't think getting a player like him in was possible, and I think perhaps the Grealish injury has played into that one a little bit as well. I don't think maybe that we'd be getting Onuma if it wasn't for Grealish's injury. I don't think we'd have gone in for that type of player. So there are circumstances that have maybe led to us being a bit busier with the incomings than we thought we would be.
Yeah, I think that's possibly quite the case. Other players that I forgot to mention that have left, Nathan Baker, a bit disappointed about that one. But then you look at some of the reasons behind it and you sort of accept it. John Terry is the talk of the window. We can't do a video where we don't discuss him in the transfer window. And then Chris Samba as well, who's earned his place at Villa for me now.
Samba, coming at the expense of Baker, I'm a little bit disappointed. I said earlier on in this video that there was no surprises with the outgoings. I suppose the Baker one was a surprise. It happened very quickly. I mean, we know the reasons why the club have done it. Obviously, the fee is going to be good in 12 months' time when we get the rest of the money. I think it's going to be bordering on 5 million, which is a good fee. And obviously, you know why we went for John Terry. We know what he's all about. Perhaps at the moment that doesn't look the best deal at the expense of Baker because we've conceded a lot more goals. But I'm confident, given time, that that'll prove a good piece of business because I think he'll really show his worth once he's settled in and once he's got used to the rough and tumble of the Championship.
James Chester's talked already about how he's learned so much in a short space of time off him. It can only be a benefit to them, and I think we've shown already, though, that using the three at the back system doesn't work for them one bit. El Mohammadi, an interesting one, you touched on him in the podcast as well. For me, I think he's going to end up being dropped now, to be honest. I don't see how he can fit in as well. Now Snodgrass is in that side as well.
I'm more worried for Adoma, to be honest, than El Mohammadi. I think I was a bit critical of the signing at first. I can't remember what your opinion was of it, but I was very critical in the transfer announcement video. I guess for 1 million stroke 1.5 million, again, it's a player that's been promoted. He's someone that Bruce has worked with before. I think he'll play his fair share of games. Still, I think he may well even spend some time at right back. Now we've had the surprise signing of Snodgrass, but it's Adoma I worry for. I don't see where he fits in now, where he's going to get any game time other than the League Cup in the next round. I just don't see where he fits in because I don't think he's a left-sided player. I don't think he can do a decent enough job there. He's played through the middle a few times with Villa in a 4-4-2. Obviously, we've got a lot of striking options. He's who I describe as being the real loser of the transfer window for Villa because I don't see where he fits in now.
Yeah, I'm disappointed by that, to be honest. I think he's got a valuable role to play at Villa, and I'm really disappointed that he's not going to be playing that much. And then you look across that whole team, though, as we've said before, there's so much depth now that we are still crammed full. And it's a shame that this window we haven't managed to shift a few more on because then it lightens it up a bit. But then, as I've said so often on these videos recently, it's a selection dilemma you'd rather have than not have. By having the likes of Onuma in there, Green coming to fruition now, Snodgrass, Adoma, there's so many fighting for places that you get the best out of these players, hopefully.
Yeah, I mean, when everyone's fit as well, I think Bjarnsson's going to struggle to get on the bench, and that's someone else who was only brought in January. You'd argue that Lansbury is now more of a backup with Onuma and Horahan, Whelan, Jedinak maybe all being ahead of him for the central spaces. So there's a massive depth there. A bit disappointed left back because if Neil Taylor gets injured, we haven't got a like-for-like replacement, and I'd say that still leaves the squad looking a little bit unbalanced. For me, in some areas, I think we've maybe got too much, and then left back's obviously somewhere where we've got no strength and depth at all. We're relying heavily on Neil Taylor staying fit. Now, I think Bruce spoke when he first came in about needing to balance up the squad, and I think in the main we've done that, albeit we are a bit bloated. But left back's a worry if anything bad happens to Neil Taylor.
For me, it's not so much because I've seen Richard Gillett play at left back, and he's played quite competently there. He's played a bit of football there. And when you've got so many right backs, you can afford to chop him at left back. I know it's not ideal having a right-footed player at left back, but in terms of the depth that we've got at the moment, I think it'd be stupid to see us sign another left back with still so many right backs. Perhaps if we'd shifted on a right back, then getting a left back in would be more plausible.
I mean, maybe we tried to get rid of one of the right backs. I mean, I'd go if Hutton's staying for the season. I mean, it looks like he had a chance of a move and maybe didn't take it. I suppose there's worries over Delat's fitness a bit still, but it probably would have been beneficial to send James Bree out on loan. That would have been something maybe we could have done, because is he going to get the football that he needs at this stage of his career, the development he needs? That's another worry. But all in all, I'm pretty happy with how the transfer window's gone. I think we've improved. I think we're in a better place than we were 12 months ago. Arguably, it's the strongest squad that there's ever been in the Championship. For me, it's just about now Bruce finding the balance, picking at the core of a side that he's going to pick every week and getting his 18 in his mind, because too much shifting people around every week, that'll cause us problems. We need to get some consistency, and I think that starts with having a consistency of team selection.
Another player that came in, Glenn Whelan, for me, he's a rotation player that will be used with Miliadnak in rotation. I don't want to see them play together because I think it'd be the slowest midfield pairing we've seen in the Championship ever.
I think there's no need to play them together. As we've said, there's so many options. I don't see there ever being any point where we're going to need to play Whelan and Jednak. I'd say maybe for away games, I mean, I know it sounds simplistic to say this, but for away games, maybe Jednak's the better option, the big strong man that solids us up a bit. Maybe at home games, I spoke before about having an anchor man who can do a bit of both, can put his foot in but can also pass the ball, and I think Whelan offers us that when teams are sitting back at Villa Park and we're struggling to break them down. I think it's more beneficial having Whelan on the pitch than it is Jedinak.
I know you were critical of the signing of Sam Johnston in January. We've got him obviously now on loan for this season. He's out of contract next summer. I don't know how this one's going to pan out, to be honest, because if he has a blinder of a season, Man United may go, oh, we're going to sign a new contract with you, chuck you $5 million signing on fee, and then try and charge teams up to $10 million, I reckon, to be honest, for him in terms of the value of English players at the moment. So that one's an interesting one to run out, and then if he doesn't have a good season, then Villa obviously won't want him, and Man United probably won't try and sign him up again. I
mean, to be honest, I've got to eat humble pie a little bit. I think in January I was right to question it, and I think the start he got off to kind of proved me right. But I think this summer, him coming in and knowing where he's going to play his football for the whole season has made a big difference to him. I don't think he's ever had that since he's made his way in the game. I think knowing he's going to be Villa for the whole season has given him confidence and allowed him to stamp his authority. And I think he's been much, much better than he was when he came in originally in January. I'll go as far as to say he's been our most consistent performer so far. I think he's been really good, and he's certainly one who's growing on me, and I wish him all the best. I think he'd be silly to sign a new contract with Man U because, being honest, he's never going to get a game there. I know it gives him a bit of financial security, but he's never going to get a game there. If he does well for Villa, at the end of the season, he'll have a lot of options for a move, and hopefully if he does well, and we've done well as well, he'll want to sign a long-term deal at Villa. But I take my hat off to him because I think he's been our best performer so far this season.
Yeah, he has been immense so far. He's been really good for us. He's made some really good stops. Finally, I know we've ran through every player more or less, and to me it's pretty hard to sort of judge them yet so early on in the season. Looking at it now, just off the cuff, who would you say is going to turn out to be the best signing that we've made? Are you sticking with sort of the John Terry thing, or are you going to go for somebody else who's going to be the one that really does make a difference this season?
I'm going to go with Onoma. He's surprised me with how good he's actually been. He reminds me a bit of Delph in midfield there. He's got very good close control. He can get himself out of tight spaces. He can pass. He's quick. Obviously, he looks like he's got a fairly decent shot on him as well. I think if we do end up with him for the whole season, because I do believe there's a chance he could go back in January. If we end up with him for the whole season, I think he'll end up being really important because he's dynamic and he's something a bit different in the middle compared to what we've got. Obviously, he can play the number 10 role, but he seems to be playing in a midfield 3 more than anything on him at the moment. I think he's a really, really good option and a really astute signing, and someone I'm surprised we've been managed to get.
Yeah, I think that's fair enough shout for you. For me, I'm going to go with Sam Johnston, to be honest. I think he's made a really good start, and he can learn so much from having 2 experienced international centre-backs as well, in John Terry and James Chester in front of him as well, and I think that just gives him even more confidence.
Obviously, he's got Steer breathing down his neck now as well, which obviously, no disrespect to Mark Bunn, but I don't think he's ever going to challenge for the number 1 spot. So having Steer as a number 2, someone who looks a genuine contender, I think that can only help Johnston's game as well. So it was important that we hung on to Steer in my eyes.
So Dan, I think we've covered it quite well today.
Hopefully.
So if you have enjoyed this video, then please do drop us that like below politely if you want to, and also comment on your thoughts on the transfer window. Did you enjoy it? Do you think we made some good moves, or do you think we still need to shed a few more players off? As always, if you are new to the Villa View as well, please do subscribe with your post notifications on. If you enjoyed that video, why not watch another one? Click the video choices on screen now to go and watch them in full. And don't forget to subscribe. Click on our logo there on the left and press subscribe. Easy.